And welcome, sports fans, to today's Roundtable, and glad you joined us for another edition of today's Sports Roundtable here on YHC. And we are well over halfway through the football season now for high school football. Week 6 in the books for Missouri high school football after last night, and seen quite a bit of action across the area last night. Just a few cancellations in the area due to certain roster shortages due to the pandemic and that sort of thing, but quite a few games in the area last night to touch on. We're going to touch on those, as well as the game that we touched on last night and brought to you here on YHC, and that was New Madrid County Central and Kennett. We're going to show you some highlights of that here shortly, but also we're going to talk about the state rankings, finally getting some state rankings for the state of Missouri. Those have been released for the first time this year. We'll touch on those after, actually, they're going to reflect after Week 5, but certainly at the halfway point of the season. And also we'll touch on a big story that got things shaken up this past week with the Class 3 District 1 football classification. And we got a new team into that here in this last week that really shakes up that district, which Kennett participates in. We'll have more on that story in a couple of minutes here on the Sports Roundtable. So a very exciting day. Hopefully you'll enjoy the show. Got quite a bit to talk about. The state rankings, this Class 3 District 1 shakeup's a big deal for that Class 3 District 1 tournament, as well as the games that were in the area last night. So let's go ahead and touch on the games that took place last night in the area. We only had one game for you last night here on YHC and online, and that was New Madrid County Central and Kennett. Kennett coming up with the victory, 43-25. The Kennett Indians victorious over the New Madrid County Central Eagles. Kind of a back-and-forth game. Kennett got off to a great start early. New Madrid had a strong second and third quarter to really cut into that New Madrid lead, Kennett lead, and then Kennett come away with the victory with a strong fourth quarter to pull away with the victory. We got some highlights of that one from last night. Let's go ahead and get to that.
Early because they
and
certainly
early
got the
on,
potent
first
offense.
quarter, a little handoff here to the right side. Jordan Jarrett with the nice first down carry, getting off to a nice start now. Nice sweep
takes
to
it around, and he's
Jarrett on the left
touchdown.
side with a strong finish for the score, getting the Indians up 8-0 with a 2-point conversion. Moments later, Jarrett goes with a nice run once again into the end zone for the touchdown. And now up 16-0 with Xavier Jackson tracked down in the backfield on that carry. We see here Matt Riley getting sacked in the backfield. Great defense by the Indians early on. And we see here with a 15-0 score. Nice touchdown pass to Tanner Duncan in the first quarter. But we see here, after being down 21-0, that's Kent breaking away with that touchdown reception to get the Eagles on the board. At that point, being 21-7. And we see here Bodie Ellis looking deep, and pass completed early on in the second quarter to extend the drive. Here a sweep goes to Jarrett. He's pulled down an arm tackle in the backfield by the Eagles. Nice defense here, and here we get 4th and goal. Ellis goes into the end zone and stopped by the Eagles. Some very good defense from the Eagles in that second quarter. And we see here Xavier Jackson, a nice hurdle down the sideline for a big gain. And here we see Matt Riley looking
nice one-handed
fingertip snag
as we see a
there
toss
by
to it. He
the
takes it
Eagle
around,
receiver to
and he
extend
breaks
the
the
drive.
tackle,
And
he
here
gets the
on
first down, and
3rd
he's still
Xavier
going.
Jackson with a tough carry,
He is
extending the
rushed,
drive for the first
but he
down.
breaks loose.
And we
Now
see
fumble.
here the Indians put the ball deep in the second quarter, and they can't get the punt off, so it's a turnover on downs. Eagles cash that in for a touchdown.
He
to go down 21-13
Touchdown, Eagles. No, it's going to be right
third
at
quarter.
the
Touchdown,
and
failed 2-point
and there it goes.
extra
There it goes for the touchdown. They're not going to hold him
and
this time.
We see here Jarrett breaking away for another score to extend the lead. And
goes
here
through
we
the
see,
original
Eagles trying to
defender's
fight
hand.
back here. Nice conversion
They're
there for
gonna
the
go
first
long.
down. Nice.
And they've got a man down the sideline, and luckily he's
sideline
forced
here
out
for
of
the
he looks
Eagles,
downfield.
extending their drive.
And he's
And
flushed
here,
out the pocket.
Riley looking for
But
a receiver
nice
along the
reception
sideline,
by,
completing
he's still
that to
looking
extend the
downfield.
drive.
He's got a
Here
man
on
picked
3rd
off
and
by
goal,
the
though, it's intercepted And Kennett
What a nice
starting to put their stamp on the game with this
pass
drive
to him,
here.
and he's
Bodie
going
Ellis
to
with the keeper,
take it into the
takes it
end
in
zone.
for the score after a tough run.
Here comes
But
the
the Eagles
New
not
Madrid
out
Eagles
of it
back.
quite
They
yet.
have it upfield,
Here in
and
the
this
fourth
boy
quarter,
May
about
got
5
one
minutes to
man
go.
to
We see a
May.
run
Got
back
one man to beat.
touchdown here off
And he
the
beat him.
kickoff.
He's going to take it all the way
And,
back
at that
for a
point, makes it
touchdown.
36 to 25. But one
Goes
more
to
drive
Jordan Jarrett. The Jet
for
takes it to the end zone.
the Indians.
Touchdown.
That's Jordan Jarrett taking it in for the touchdown, and great performance by the Indians, especially in that fourth quarter. They really turned it on. The Eagles really came out strong in that second and third quarter, really making it tough on the Indians. But Kennett got back into rhythm, certainly offensively in the fourth quarter. Put up quite a few points there to come away with that victory, 43-25. With the Indians' victory over New Madrid County Central. We'll talk about that game and a little bit more in our next segment, and where you can watch that replay here in just a moment. And in other games down in Arkansas, Piggott goes on the road to take on Osceola. Big 3A3 conference matchup there for the Mohawks. They just fall short on the road, 12-6. Tough 3A3 conference opponent there with Osceola, especially on the road. And Piggott just losing that one by one score, 12-6. And we'll be back in action with Piggott, as we'll touch on a little later in our broadcast schedule. And touching on some more games, we've got Hayti over Charleston. Hayti takes on Charleston and gets a decisive victory there, 70-6. No problem for the Indians with that victory over the Charleston Blue Jays. And also we've got Portageville over Chaffee, 50-32. The Portageville Bulldogs getting their first victory of the year and getting that one against the Chaffee Red Devils last night. Congratulations to Portageville getting their first victory of the year behind an impressive performance, which we'll touch on in our next segment. And Kelly over Scott City. Kelly continuing their impressive season with a 20-6 victory over the Scott City Rams. Also, we've got Cape Central over Sykeston. Big SEMO North matchup there between those two. And Cape Central comes out with a victory, 28-19, and securing that victory over the Sykeston Bulldogs. Also, Farmington over Poplar Bluff, 31-28. An impressive victory there for Farmington over Poplar Bluff, 31-28 in Poplar Bluff. Jackson defeats Fox. That was up in the pit in Jackson. And Jackson getting another decisive victory. That seems like same story, different week for the Jackson Indians. Getting another decisive victory, 59-21, and extending their undefeated season. And also we've got Valley Catholic playing in Class 3 District 1 this year. Moving up, skipping Class 2 all the way up to Class 3 this year as they defeated Jefferson out of Festus 47-13. No problem for the Valley Warriors. And touching on that New Madrid County Central and Kennett broadcast, you can watch that replay here Saturday at noon and then Sunday at 4. And we'll probably have a little bit more than that as well. But you can catch that Saturday and Sunday right here on YHC and watch it anytime. Go online to our website, yhctv.com, and our YouTube page as well. And we have a Facebook Live available on our Facebook page as well for that New Madrid County Central Kennett broadcast from Friday night. That's probably our best game so far this year. A lot of big plays on both sides and pretty contested down to the end. So catch that replay right here on YHC. And we're going to take our first break, and we're going to come back and talk about some headlines from last night's games in the area, and we will have that coming back.
If you or your loved one has disabilities that cause you to need a little help, Boot Hill Area Independent Living Services can provide the assistance you need. At Bales, we want you to have control of your life and assist you in thriving in an independent lifestyle. The Consumer Directed Services Program allows you, the consumer, to choose who assists you in conducting your daily activities. Bales serves Stoddard, Dunklin, New Madrid, and Pemiscot counties. Call or visit our office in Kennett to see how we can help you maintain your independence.
Coming soon, the Harry Blackwell family of dealers will launch the future of automotive buying in Southeast Missouri.
And welcome back, and let's take a look at some headlines from Friday night in the area with some high school football. And the Kennet Indians go to 6-0, as we talked about, with a victory over New Madrid County Central. Big performances in that one. Jordan Jarrett had over 200 yards. I think we had him close to about 215 yards on the night. Rushing on the night, had some big plays. Bodie Ellis had some nice plays with a keeper with that touchdown. But Jordan Jarrett did a whole lot on the ground last night, over 200 yards, and come away with a great victory as the Kennet Indians extend their undefeated season. And much like last year, just rolling through their schedule so far this year. Do have some big school opponents coming up. Actually, they're going to be on the road to take on Dexter. We'll talk about that a little later. But they will have Sykeston and Poplar Bluff on their schedule going forward and the remainder of their games. So some bigger school opponents coming up for Kennet, but certainly going to be competitive in those contests going forward for the Indians. So Kennet marches on with another victory last night over New Madrid County Central. And also want to touch on Cape Central's victory, defeating Sykeston. That's a SEMO North victory for Cape Central and securing that win 28-19. Much needed win for the Cape Central Tigers, and overcome quite a few turnovers in that one, but do secure the victory over Sykeston, and quite a rivalry game there between Cape and Sykeston. And Jackson defeating Fox, big-time matchup there. Fox, a class 6 state-ranked team, but Jackson certainly a class 5 state-ranked team in their own right, defeating Fox there at the pit in Jackson, and winning that one no problem, and extending their undefeated season. Kel Welker back in the lineup this year after being suspended one game last week, and back in there throwing for 212 passing yards in that game last night. Certainly probably one of the best, if not the best, quarterback in the area in Kel Welker, two-time All-State player, and having a great year once again this season. So the Jackson Indians roll once again with a victory Friday night at the pit in Jackson. And Portageville getting their first victory of the year. And nice to see Portageville get in the win column for this season with that victory over Chaffee. And putting up a bunch of points on Chaffee last night, 52 points I believe it was. And Mason Adams making his debut at quarterback as a freshman, making his freshman debut, not only in the varsity level but the high school level. And high school football, Mason Adams throws 6 touchdown passes for the Bulldogs to secure that victory against Chaffee. Congratulations to Mason Adams on a great outing as a freshman quarterback. That's no easy feat, just for first-time quarterback appearance, but as a freshman, pretty impressive as he throws 6 touchdown passes in that contest. And Portageville getting that first victory, and congratulations. Also, we want to touch on Missouri State Activities Association. They've made some decisions on the Show Me Bowl. That's the state championship games for classes 1 through 6. And they've typically been played on the Mizzou campus at Faroe Field. And it's going to be a change this year due to conflicts with the scheduling with the university as well as Misha. So Misha's going to schedule the state championship games to play at 3 different high schools. And those are scheduled to be played at Blair Oaks High School in Jefferson City, also Helias Catholic, that's also in Jefferson City, as well as Jeff City Helias and Jefferson City High School. So 3 different high schools in Jefferson City, that's Blair Oaks, Helias Catholic, and Jefferson City High School. Those 3 locations will host this year's Show Me Bowl, and that's the state championship football games for classes 1 through 6. And in the event any of those teams are to play in a Show Me Bowl, they will of course play in one of the other sites and not their home field. So pretty big news there. Mizzou's been the site of the state championships with the Show Me Bowl since they moved it out of the Dome in St. Louis, where the Rams previously played. So a little change there, going from the Mizzou campus at Faroe Field to now high schools. And did a little research on that. Hasn't been since 1978 that a state championship game has been held at a high school location. So digging up some history there, all the way back to 1978, the last time a Missouri high school football state championship was played at a high school location. But these aren't typical times. So it doesn't really have anything to do with COVID this year, just due to a scheduling conflict. So we'll see Blair Oaks, Helias Catholic, and Jeff City High School hosting this year's football state championships. And we're going to hold on just a moment here. Okay, and we're going to now move on to a little discussion here. So I'm going to beg for your patience here to try to navigate through this whole scenario, but I want to be as complete and precise as I can here to explain all this. So just bear with me in this. Just last week, Misha released the classifications for all the districts and classes. So there's 6 classes in football, and of course there's district assignments within each classification. And here in the Boot Hill, here in southeast Missouri, we're pretty much District 1 all across the board. From classes 1 all the way to 5, we don't have any Class 6 schools in our area. But Class 3 District 1's always been the district with Dexter, Kennett, and even New Madrid County Central, but they've recently moved down to Class 2 starting last year. And this year, they released the classifications last year, and there were 6 teams for Class 3 District 1. Some teams have elected to move their football season and fall sports season totally to the spring. Misha allowed us allotment for spring if schools wanted to move their fall sports to the spring, and some have done that. And we've seen a lot of that up north around the St. Louis areas, even the metro areas where they've got some restrictive measures for events such as sporting events. So some schools have elected to move their sports season, if not all of their fall sports season, but quite a few of their sports to the spring season. And that was the case for St. Mary's. St. Mary's is out of St. Louis. They elected to move their sports, or I think maybe all of their sports, or certainly the football season, to the spring season. But here of late, they have wanted to move their season back to the fall and to participate in fall football here in the fall season. And they actually applied to actually reinstate themselves into the fall season rather than the spring season. They were approved of that here in the last week from the Missouri State High School Activities Association. So St. Mary's, which I didn't catch it if they were actually classified as Class 4, which they were last year. I would only assume that they would at least be that this year, but they are in Class 4. But Jason West, Communications Director with Misha, said that they were actually going to be placing teams in open districts. So they've actually put a cap, I believe, at 7 to 8 teams, maybe 8 teams. I think it is 8 teams. So they would place teams in districts that were open, that had enough teams up to, let's say, if they had no more than 7 teams. So if they had 7 teams, they'd be able to add them for the 8th team into that district. So they placed St. Mary's in Class 3 District 1. I'm not sure if they were going to be participating in Class 3 regardless, or if they placed them from Class 4 down to Class 3 District 1, because that was the only district that was available. I'm going to assume that they're going to be participating in Class 3 this year, and they placed them down here in Class 3 District 1, which is quite a leap there. They're up in St. Louis, and now they're playing down here in Class 3 District 1, which we typically haven't seen a team really further north than Festus come down and play in Class 3 District 1. Typically it was St. Pius out of Festus that was the furthest north team that I can recall. But nonetheless, this is a big shakeup in Class 3 District 1, also including a shakeup, which not necessarily a shakeup here in the last week, but Valley Catholic has been pushed up not only 1 classes, but 2 classes. Valley Catholic has won the state championship 2 of the last 5 years in Class 1, including last year. They come back this year, and Misha has gone to a championship factor instead of a 1.35 multiplier for private and charter schools. So they've removed the 1.35 multiplier that is applied to the school's enrollment for private and charter schools. So that's why you see some private and charter schools get bumped up in classification due to that enrollment or that multiplier being added. But they've removed that, and they've added a championship factor, which basically has a rolling count of a point count towards postseason success on a 6-year rolling count. So Valley Catholic, of course, has done quite well over the last 5 to 6 years, and we were expecting them to probably certainly go up to Class 2 due to their recent success in the postseason, but not only one class, but 2 classes. They get pushed up to Class 3 District 1, and they are competing in Class 3 District 1 this year with our local teams such as Dexter, Doniphan, Kennett, and other teams in there like Fredericktown and St. Genevieve further off. But quite a bit of a shake-up there as well with Valley into the district. But this is what makes it interesting. There's now 7 teams in Class 3 District 1, and right now Valley Catholic is first in the rankings. There's point system in the district seedings now, so Valley's at like 49 points, Kennett's at like 47 points, so they're 1 and 2. But the thing is, St. Mary's, they haven't played a game all year up to this point. They've had all their games canceled through the first 6 weeks due to the restrictions up in St. Louis County. So they are not necessarily 0 and 6. They're not a forfeit. They're just a canceled game. So they're 0 and 0. And they are looking to get back into action this week as they are scheduled to play St. Louis University High out of St. Louis. But St. Louis University High hasn't been practicing football as what's been reported in St. Louis media. So that game might not take place, but they do have 2 other games remaining on their schedule, like Trinity Catholic and another school, I can't recall. But they could eventually get 2 games on their schedule, potentially 2 wins. Now, Doniphan's currently sitting in 6th place, last place if you don't count St. Mary's, who hasn't played a game yet. And they've got, I believe it's 12 points. So I would assume that 2 victories by St. Mary's, if they were to get those games and victories in, they would probably surpass Doniphan to get that 6th spot, unless there's other factors I'm not considering here. So, but at this point right now, St. Mary's would be the 7th seed. Now, we haven't talked about how good St. Mary's is. They're very good. They lost to Platte County in the state semifinals in Class 4 last year. So they were Class 4 semifinalists and bring back pretty much all of their core team from last year. So they're going to be even stronger this year, assuming coming back with the roster they had from last year's semifinalist roster from last year. So they're looking to be even better this year, not only in Class 4, stepping down to Class 3. So a very good team added to this Class 3 District 1 tournament in just a matter of a month coming up at the end of this season. So what really makes it interesting and really what makes it unique is there's 7 teams in the district. So in the 7-team bracket, the top seed would have a first-round bye. And then you would have 3 other matchups in the first round. 2 would play 7, 3 would play 6, and 4 would play 5. So the way it looks right now, which it could change, but right now, if the district tournament were to start today, Kennett would have the 2nd seed, and they would host the 7th seed, St. Mary's Dragons, at Metz-Cherry Stadium in Kennett. And that is quite a matchup because St. Mary's could very well be possibly the best team in the district. And they are potentially to come in the district tournament as the last seed. And that really shakes up the district. So you could potentially have what could be considered possibly the 2 best teams in the district face off in the first round between Kennett and St. Mary's. Of course, Valley Catholic, assuming they would have that 1 seed, they're right there in the mix as well. But Kennett and St. Mary's would definitely be a heck of a first-round matchup, considering St. Mary's not the 7th best, not the worst team in the district by no means. They're at least they're among the top 3, and having that first-round matchup between Kennett and St. Mary's would be certainly strange, considering where the caliber of what St. Mary's is in this district tournament. Now, Kennett could, with these later victories in their season, surpass Valley for that number 1 seed, where Valley would drop down to that number 2 seed and then potentially take on St. Mary's. But then St. Mary's, if they get a couple of these games in, which they intend to start this next week on October 9th, they got 3 games on the schedule. This one with St. Louis University High is, I would say, skeptical whether that would happen or not, but certainly 2 more games they're looking to play. They secure a couple of victories, whereas they would surpass Donovan for that 6th seed, to grab that 6th seed and move Donovan down to 7. That changes it up a bit, but that 3rd seed, that could be even the Dexter Bearcats getting that 3rd seed, or even St. Genevieve hosting St. Mary's in that 3-6 matchup. So a lot of different scenarios that could play out here, but certainly with St. Mary's coming in, that's going to be towards the bottom of the district come the district tournament, just due to the fact that they've missed 6 games out of the 9 regular season games so far. They've missed 2/3 of their season. Is going to push them towards the bottom of the district, even though they're among one of the 2 or 3 best teams in the district for sure. So that's what really shakes up that Class 3 District 1 tournament coming down here to the end of the year. If I were to just play it out, I would think St. Mary's will secure a couple of victories and then probably surpass Donovan for that 6th spot. So it might not be as dramatic as 2 versus 7 like a Kennett or a Valley Catholic versus St. Mary's in the first round. I'm just assuming at this point they will secure a victory or 2 to surpass Donovan for that number 6 seed. And then it would be a 3 versus 6 matchup. That'll be a little strange as well, but not quite as dramatic between that 2 versus 7 matchup. But that's a dynamic going forward for the Kennett Indians, the Valley Catholic Warriors, to avoid that first round matchup with St. Mary's. I mean, it's one thing to meet up with St. Mary's in the championship game, which I would assume St. Mary's has a good chance of playing in that championship game, but to play them in the first round when you're the 1 or as the 2 seed potentially, and playing a team of the caliber of St. Mary's as a 7 seed is pretty daunting. But nonetheless, it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out going forward between those 3 teams, St. Mary's as well as Valley Catholic and Kennett. It's going to be interesting. You don't see this very often, but these are not normal times here. Certainly with this year, teams wanting to defer to the spring, and then the case like St. Mary's, they deferred and then went back in to play in the fall, and that's the case here for St. Mary's playing in Class 3 District 1 this year. So this is a one-off year likely with this kind of scenario, I would assume. But we'll see how it all plays out. A couple of 2 to 3 different scenarios that can play out with the seedings. They're among 1 through 3, between those 3 teams, Valley, Kennett, and St. Mary's. So there's going to be a couple different scenarios that play out. We'll see how it all plays out. We'll keep up here going forward with those district standings to see how they match up after each week. And it's pretty interesting. It is. It's really interesting how it's all played out. And we'll see how the district tournament lines up after just 3 more weeks. We're at week 6 in the books. We got weeks 7, 8, and 9, and then we'll head into that first round of the district tournament. So we'll see what happens, but I just wanted to roll that out. Hopefully I did that as clearly and complete as possible. But that's just the scenario there in Class 3 District 1 for this season. And we're going to take a quick break real quick, and actually let's just roll right through. Let's just roll right through and go to state rankings. We finally got some state rankings released. Trying to wait on some teams whether they're going to play this fall, move out to the spring. That's kind of been finalized, and now we can kind of count on the teams playing from here on out. Starting off with Class 1 in the state rankings, first poll release for this season here at the midway point. These are reflecting last week's games, not last night's games. So after 5 weeks of play, Mid-Buchanan on top at number 1. The Hayti Indians fall at number 2 in the Class 1 ranking. Thayer is 3rd, and Hayti defeated Thayer in the first week of the year, so that's their sole loss there. They're at number 4, Milan, followed by Windsor, Western, East Buchanan, Marionville Skyline, and Adrian. And moving on to Class 2, we've got Palmyra on top of number 1, followed by Lamar, then Lutheran St. Charles, St. Pius X out of Kansas City, Lafayette County, Butler, Lexington, Clark County, Duchesne, and Monroe City. Looking at Class 3, Valley Catholic. The Valley Catholic Warriors and defending Class 1 state champion. They are on top at number 1, and followed by Odessa, the defending Class 3 state champion. They're at number 2, followed by Blair Oaks out of Jefferson City, and their sole loss is to Valley Catholic from last week. So impressive matchup there as Valley Catholic defeated Blair Oaks 35-28 last week. And then they're at number 4, Centralia, the Kennett Indians at number 5. They're in the top 5 for Kennett, followed by Mount Vernon, Oak Grove, Southern Boone, Cassville, and Park Hills Central. Now moving up to Class 4, Elias Catholic out of Jefferson City at top number 1, followed by West Plains, Hannibal, Bolivar, Festus, Lincoln College Prep, Smithville, Moberly, Winnetonka, and St. Dominic. And moving to Class 5, Carthage on top of number 1, followed by Webb City, the local Jackson Indians there at number 3, followed by Green Valley, Battle, Platte County, Fort Zumwalt North, Ozark, Farmington, and North Kansas City. Now, Carthage are the defending Class 5 state champions. They knocked off Jackson in overtime of that Class 5 state championship game last fall. So they're both right there back in the mix, Jackson and Carthage. They're at number 1 and number 3. And, of course, Webb City, the Class 5 mainstay, they're in at number 2. So those are your state rankings for this week. Now, I see a poll out there. I haven't been able to get a poll out there from the state media or the media participants, largely probably due to what teams are going to flex out to the spring or teams remain here in the fall. And it looks like we got that pretty much ironed out now over halfway through the season. And we should probably expect a new poll each week going forward. So we got some local teams there in the mix. Certainly our local teams like Kennett, they're number 5 in Class 3. We've got Hayti at number 2 in Class 1. Of course, Jackson there at number 3 in Class 5. So we've got quite a few teams there in the mix here locally. And we'll take a look at our broadcast schedule going forward. Take a look at the games that we've got coming up to bring to you here on YHC. Next Friday night, October 9th, we've got Kennett versus Dexter at Charles Bland Stadium. The Kennett Indians back in action against the Dexter Bearcats. We'll carry it here on Channel 21 on your new wave cable, as well as YHCTV.com and Facebook Live. And we'll also be back down in Piggott for Walnut Ridge at Piggott. You can catch that live on the website, YHCTV.com. Then October 16th, we got Perryville at Dexter on TV and all of our online platforms. And then we got another 3A3 matchup, Hoxie at Piggott on the website live. Then October 23rd, we've got Sykeston at Kennett. And that'll be live on Channel 21 as well as online. And then October 30th, that'll be the first round of the district tournaments here in Missouri. So we'll see what matchups line up there on October 30th to bring to you if they do present themselves there on October 30th here on YHC. Then the next week on Thursday, November 5th, we've got the Rice Bowl down in Clay County. We've got Corning versus Piggott. That'll be live here on Channel 21 as well as YHCTV.com and Facebook Live. So look forward to that one. Should be a great one there between Corning and Piggott. And that's pretty much all to bring to you for today. Had a lot to get to with Misha releasing some important news for this past week concerning our area, especially that Class 3 District 1, but also for the state with Elias Catholic, Blair Oaks, and Jefferson City High School hosting this year's football state championship games. Pretty big news there. And we'll see what next week brings. You never know that during these COVID times, you just never know what each week's going to bring. And we'll be sure to bring it all to you right here on YHC going forward. And also worth noting, Bob Gibson, Hall of Fame St. Louis Cardinals pitcher, died just, I think, a day or two ago. I think it might have been yesterday. And he was 84, Hall of Fame pitcher, of course, lives in, the memory of the St. Louis Cardinals organization and the great career he had. And had Lou Brock just pass away. I think that was a few weeks ago as well. So 2 St. Louis Cardinals legends pass on. And just sad to see those legends pass on, as we see more and more each year. But certainly sad to hear that of Bob Gibson passing away at the age of 84 yesterday. And that's all we got for you today. We appreciate you for tuning in as always. We'll see you next time. And until then, I'm Tyler Wagner. Have yourself a great week.